I feel like a mosquito in a nudist colony. Just feeling so wonderful to be here, but not knowing where to begin. And before I go further, I want to ask Chantal, are the rooms ready? Do we do an overnighter today? It's so wonderful to be here. I mean, there's so much power, passion, purpose and possibility when women come together. For those of us who are just coming from celebrating Easter, remembering the story of the resurrection and the crucifixion, I say, if those 3 wise men who went to see Christ that day were wise women, we would have asked for directions. We would have cleaned the tables and we would have taken great gifts. That's the power that lies in us. My father had a phenomenal influence in my life. He was 6'3", handsome, real good-looking guy. But his real beauty was not in his frame, it was in his heart. Now he was the kind of person who would wake up every morning and the first question he asks is, what can I do today to help somebody? It was his passion, his mission and his vision to help people. And I remember early on growing up in Sri Lanka, as Chantal said, how many of you know where Sri Lanka is? Good, it's not going to India and making a right. I remember the many stories my father told me and the wisdom he shared with me. And he said to me that every one of us, we are carrying this invisible sign which says, respect me, recognize me. And Chantal, you alluded to that. The recognize me is the connection, the relationships that we are all yearning to build. When I first came to the United States, people would ask me, how are you? And as I got ready to give the answer, they would walk away. And it took me a while to realize how are you was not a question, not a question, it was a greeting. Please laugh and figure out the joke when you go home. Thank you. So this is about going deeper. And my father also told me, Soraya, if ever you are invited to speak, stand tall that people can see you. Speak loud that they can hear you. And he said, sit down that they may like you. So in the spirit of connection and relationship, I want you to turn to the person next to you, behind you, in front of you, and introduce yourselves. Right now.
I'm Alexandra.
Want to achieve? Yes. How many of you want it to be a great year? How many of you want it to be a great decade? How about making it a great life? Yes. And that's what we are here for, to understand what we need to do so that we can take ownership of our role to create a world that is going to work for everybody. And in this journey, let us be really clear, this is going to be hard. There's no easy dream. There's a lot of work to do. And your closest people will be your most violent critics. But we have to remember one thing, that it's possible. That it's possible. This morning as I dropped my daughter to school, now she goes to a Spanish immersion. I remember the very first day I dropped her. We don't speak Spanish in our homes. So when I picked her from school and I asked her, baby, is everything all right? Did you like school? She said, Mommy, I loved school. I loved my teacher and my teacher kissed me. I said, wow, great. Did you kiss her back? And she said, no, Mommy, I didn't kiss her back. I kissed her face. So that's my daughter. And this morning she said, she was sad I was leaving for San Francisco. I don't go home till Saturday night, driving up from LA. She said, Mommy, I think you need to get a regular job. So in this journey of creating the world we want to create, of bringing out the best in us and doing the work we are called to do, we have to remember it is possible. When Mother Teresa at 17 years, when she went from Albania to India, and she wanted to care for the uncared for the unloved and the unwanted. And she began her work by building a little facility for the people who were dying. People stoned her. People beat her. And at the end of it all, she left us a powerful message. She said, smile when you do your work. Because when you smile, that's where love begins. And she taught us, don't judge. Because when we judge, there's no room to love. If it was possible for her to do what she did, it's possible for us. Let's talk about Dr. King. Dr. King was once at a meeting. Somebody walked up to him and asked, are you King? Dr. King looked up at this person and said, yes. This person takes a mouthful of spit and spits it at Dr. King. Dr. King reaches for his handkerchief. He wipes the spit and he says, here, this belongs to us. He took the high road. It's possible. If he did what he did, and he told us, hate is too much of a burden to bear. I stand with love. It's possible for us to do the work we are doing. And I want to share with you my story, the journey I have taken to be here. It was September 11th, 2007. I had just parked my car. It was the afternoon, it was around 3 o'clock. I was there to pick my 7-year-old son from school. And that afternoon, as I parked the car and stepped out to the sidewalk, I saw my friends and I greeted them. And as I heard the school bell ring, I saw my 7-year-old son walking towards me. But that afternoon, as I waved at him, he didn't see me. He was looking down as if he was searching for something. And as he approached the gate, I rushed. And I knelt and took his little bag from his shoulder. And I asked him in a joking way, hey buddy, is everything all right? And my 7-year-old son, he looked up at me and he said to me, Mommy, are we terrorists? My 7-year-old son, he looked up at me. His eyes filled in tears, his face in fear, and he asked me if we were terrorists. And I tell this story not to impress you, but to impress upon you that we all make judgments. And that afternoon, I realized that my words had power, that my words could liberate or enslave my son, that my words could give him hope or despair, that my words had meaning. And that afternoon I realized I didn't need a PhD to teach my son to choose love. And it is that journey that has taken me into the field of peacemaking, bringing communities, promoting interfaith dialogue. And now I'm launching a massive movement, a Muslim women speakers movement, creating 10,000 voices of hope. Voices of hope without politics and religion. Because let us be really clear on this one. Our stories are powerful. Our stories are powerful. Our stories have the capacity to bring us together. Our stories have the capacity to bring light to this world. We have to learn to tell our stories. I was not planning to do this little segment, but because I saw Kate and then I saw Kristen, I just want to tell you, under the acronym of story, that we can powerfully communicate and deliver a story. S, whenever we tell a story, we need to have a setup. Like what I said, it was September 11th, 2007. I set up the story. And then there should be a tale. The T in the story is tale, a traveling tale. It has to take a journey of its own. The O in the story is the obstacle. What was the obstacle? Because people will love you when they know you have had a challenge, when they know you have had an obstacle. That's critical to share. Then the R is the resolution. And the Y is really important. Why should I care? Why should your audience care? So as we go forward telling our stories, remember to focus on some of the things that might really help you communicate your story. So we spoke about possibility. This is very important. It's possible. We can do anything we want to do. It has Kate left. I mean, she just did a powerful workshop. Okay, yeah, anything is possible. Then we go into the realm of necessary. It's necessary. It's necessary that you step into your greatness, that I step into my greatness, and we step into our greatness. It's necessary that we do the work. Nobody is going to write the book that's in you. Nobody is going to sing the song that's in you. Nobody is going to dance that you know to dance. Nobody is going to do the workshop that you can do. It's necessary. Don't deny the world of your talent. It's necessary. So move with passion and purpose. I want to share with you a story of two men who had worked 40 hours for 40 years. They were having a lunch break, seated at the cafeteria, talking. When they saw a distinguished looking man approach, one of the men waved at this man and said, "Hi Jim, how are you?" So Jim looked at Sam and said, "Oh Sam, I'm doing well." And Sam asked Jim again, "How is your family? What's happening? What's new?" They were just exchanging pleasantries. And after Jim left, Sam's friend said to Sam, "What? You know that guy? Do you know that he's the president of the railway?" And Sam said, "Yes." Sam and Jim and I, we came to work for the railway at the same time. I came to work for $8 an hour, and Jim came to work for the railway. I came to work for $8 an hour, and Jim came to work for the railway. So we have to really embrace, step into our greatness, and showcase our greatness to the world. The world is hungry. The world is waiting for this feminist movement based on love and compassion. This is what we are wired to do. And this is what we are called to do. So we know that it's possible. We know that it's necessary. Let us be really clear that it's you. It's you. You have to write that book. You have to do that dance. You have to do what you are so talented, so blessed to do. I think one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Greg Braden, says, the chance that you are on this planet with this DNA that you have is 1 in 400 billion. This is not an accident. Yes. So how can we, as I said, life is going to be hard when you have a purpose and a vision and you move on. But we have to take determined action steps with the goal in mind, the final goal in mind. So I say, there has to be a mindset transformation. And I'm sure for all of us here, that's easy, because we do the inner work. A mindset transformation is critical. Not to look at the glass and think it's half empty, but to look at it and see it as half full. Not to add momentum to the problem, but to fly away from the problem and create a solution. And this is still a new year. And for it to be a new year, we have to have a mindset transformation. And then we have to acquire new skill sets. That's critical. New skill sets. I remember 5 years ago I ran the Los Angeles Marathon. Because I am a teacher and a follower and a student of nonviolent communication, a certified parent educator, because I believe finally the world needs a transformational generation, and that can begin only in our homes. Because oftentimes we're trying to fix what is broken on the outside when there's so much more that needs to be done on the inside. When Mother Teresa was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace, she was asked, what message did you have for the world? She said, go home and love your children. Go home and love your families. That's where it begins. So when I ran the Los Angeles Marathon 5 years ago, how many of you have run the marathon? Okay, wow. How many of you are hoping to? Good, yes. What I realized was that life is like a marathon. Every day you wake up, you come to a starting line, and you take determined steps. And that takes you to the finish line. And when you run the marathon, after the 18th mile, you're just looking for a place to hide. But there will appear people who will carry you through. It's not what is here now, but what is possible is something that we need to focus on. And then, thirdly, we need strategic alliances and partnerships. And I'm here today because of my mentor, Les Brown. He saw in me something that I didn't see myself. Like I was in the frame and I did not see the picture. Yes. So I leave you with this message of 7 simple words. Whatever we do. I don't know whether Kana said it was 1 minute or 5 minutes. 1 minute, okay. Whatever we do, let us remember these 7 simple words. Let's be kind. Let's do good. And let's make things better. Thank you.